Welcome to Transform, Ignite, Disrupt, bringing you interviews and insights covering proven practical strategies to unlock your company's innovation potential. Here's your host, Stephen L. Blue.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transform, Ignite, and Disrupt. Well, today I'm going to kind of go local for you. I usually go national, and I usually go with people that are, well-known and cool and all that kind of stuff. But this week, and on this episode, I'm going to go local in Winona, Minnesota. Now, you may not know much about Winona, Minnesota. Most people don't. But Winona, Minnesota, a little town on the banks of the Mississippi River, about 100 miles south of Minneapolis, and just on the border of La Crosse, Wisconsin, is a really cool town, home of so much innovation and so much transformation and igniting and disrupting of markets that you just wouldn't believe it. Let me start off with the biggest and probably most well-known company in Winona is Fastenal. Now, if you know anything about Fastenal, they're about a $4 billion global conglomerate of everything from industrial vending machines to nuts and bolts. And it was started here by a guy by the name of Bob Kierlin, who still lives in town and is a really cool guy, by the way. He started Fastenal, I think in, 1960, something like that, in his garage. And then when they were about only $60 million in sales, he took the company public through an IPO. Now imagine that. Generally when you think of IPOs, you think you can't do an IPO unless it's like really high technology and you got a lot of money behind you and it's an emerging market and something really cool and different that people haven't seen or done before. But he took a nut and bolt company at $60 million and did an IPO with it. It was very, very successful, oversubscribed, as I recall. And now it's about a $4 billion company right here in Winona. RTP, a specialty manufacturer of high-performance polymers, is located right here in Winona. They're not a public company, so I don't know what their sales are, but it would easily be hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're known all over the world for their technology and respected all over the world. Kotobo, which manufactures high technology bows for violins and string instruments, known all over the world. Willett Hauser, architectural glass, right here in Winona, Minnesota, known all over the world. Windcraft, one of the biggest sports marketing manufacturers and distributors in the world, started right here in Winona, Minnesota, and still here today. And so it's it's a hotbed of entrepreneurialism, if that's a word. I think I just invented a new word, entrepreneurialism. But I want to tell you about two events that I was, so that's just sort of the background of Winona, Minnesota, just a hotbed of disruption and transformation and cool, never seen before in the world products and services. But this week I was fortunate enough to attend two events that really highlight the strength and the core of what Winona, Minnesota people are all about and the lessons that you can learn in your disruption and your transformation journey. The first one was a young fellow by the name of Eric Mullen, who's a Winona State graduate from the College of Business. Really cool kid. Started himself a place in town that he calls the Garage Co-work Space. And on its fundamental level, the Garage Space is a place where entrepreneurs can come together. They can rent a desk for a day, for a week, for a year, for a month, or whatever, and they can just go there and hang out instead of having to go to Starbucks. And then the idea behind it that Eric has, along with his executive director, Samantha Strand, is to not only have a place for people to go to hatch ideas and to work on ideas, but then to try to marry that idea generation and innovation, if you will, with funding. People that in town that are interested in participating in funding, call it, Shark Tank on steroids. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to come to the grand opening this week, and it's the idea behind it is let's find a way to foster enhance and encourage the next generation of entrepreneurs in Winona. First generation of entrepreneurs is sort of getting a little on the older side, and Eric and his team wanted to be sure that they could foster the next generation and facilitate that. This initiative is participated in and supported heavily by the city of Winona. Mayor Mark Peterson was there at the grand opening. He's very supportive of it. The Chamber of Commerce is in on it. And of course, the College of Business, Winona State College of Business, is also a major contributor and in a sense, co-founder of this initiative. And I bet, I would guarantee you, and you should watch this, and I'll report on this, I would guarantee you that there'll be a lot of innovation come out of that space and a lot of new ideas, and probably some new companies will get hatched. So stay tuned for what that's going to be all about, because I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. The second event I attended this week was a College of Business. It was a banquet, if you will, but this had a bit of a different twist. It wasn't the Winona State University funding and taking all the risk of this banquet and promoting this banquet. It was the College of Business students themselves. They got together and they decided they wanted to have a banquet, raise some money, of course, recognize people and reward people, and sort of, talk about their achievements and what they're up to and what they're thinking about and where they're going. And that was the second event that I attended this week. And I got to tell you, it was just phenomenal. Now, I know most of these students because I am the CEO in residence, the first CEO in residence of Winona State University. So I get there on campus and I engage with these students a lot. And I got to tell you, this group of students, young people that I've come to admire, are just phenomenal. I mean, they're so, Eric Mullen was one of them, the guy who founded Garage CoSpace. If I had the ambition and the vision and the drive and the planning that these kids have when I was 22, I don't know, I would have been a lot further along than I am, because I didn't get this vision and planning until I was, probably about 30. But these kids, facilitated by the College of Business Dean, Hamid Akbari, who is a visionary, they planned this whole event, and it was well attended. I bet there were, had to be close to 300 or 400 people there from all walks of life, and a lot of the students, and it was just a really special evening. You should look on my website and on my Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn pages, and you can see the photos of the event. It was just a terrific event, and and I was asked to make a few remarks, and I did. And the essence of my remarks were this. I said, you know what? When I came to this event, I was hoping that it would be well attended, because it's the first time it's ever been done, and it was done by College of Business students all on their own. And when I pulled into the parking lot and it was jam-packed full of cars, I was just thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. And I went on to say, when I made my remarks, I said, now, and when you get out into the world and the world starts beating you down, and the world starts challenging you, and the world starts not believing in you and not believing in your ideas and not believing in anything that you're doing, and when you start to feel a little down, just remember this: you are special. And they are. Every one of those young people are really, really special. As many of them got up on the podium and made their remarks, I was just thrilled to see them do that, because I knew them all. I've known them all for a long time. So what's the point of this whole thing? The whole point of this podcast today is, if you want to do something special, if you want to transform, ignite, and disrupt your marketplace, you have to think about things differently. Eric Mullen, the founder of the Garage Space, thought, okay, you can rent space in town for you have to do a year lease, and maybe if you go to Regis, Regis.com, that's the international office space realtor, you can do something for like a year, and okay, you get someone answering your phones, you get a conference room and all that kind of stuff. But Eric thought differently. He thought, well, maybe there's a way to do that for people who don't want it for a year and people who can't afford it for a year, but yet they still have great ideas and great plans and huge ambition. So let's do it by the day. If you want to rent a desk, rent it by the day. Who'd have thunk? I mean, it's really a novel idea. And so if you want to transform, ignite, and disrupt your marketplaces, you have to do something different than what all the other guys are doing. And this is what I say all the time. Don't go with the pack. Don't go with the flow. If you go with the pack, you're going to get eaten with the pack. You need to look at things differently, and you need to frame the problems in the world and frame the opportunities in the world in a different way than you have in the past, in a different way than anybody else has. Now, admittedly, that's not easy because we all get into the grind every day. We're doing the same thing and in the same way, and you get up tomorrow and you'll do things the same way you did yesterday. So here's what I would say. First of all, if you want to look at a hotbed of entrepreneur thinking, activity, and results, look to Winona, Minnesota, and look to the Winona State University College of Business under the leadership of Hamid Akbari, who is just a visionary, and he's done so much for the community and so much for the university since he's been here. But if you really want to do things differently, and if you really want to do things that matter and that make mega leaps, then you have to think differently about what you're doing and how you're doing it. Here's a perfect example. Most people will say, well, what's possible for me to do? What's possible in the marketplace? What's possible in new product development? What's possible? Don't think about what's possible. What you should do is you should start with what is impossible. Now, I know a lot of the pundits will tell you, you can't think about what's impossible because then you'll never do it. Oh, God, your life will be so hard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying look at what's impossible and go, well, I can't do that. That's impossible. Start off, if you want to expand your thinking, start off thinking about what would be impossible for me to do. And start listing them out. It would be impossible for me to do this. It would be impossible for me to do that. It would be impossible for me to do that. And then once you're done with that and you've got what's impossible, then you go, well, why is that impossible? Why is that impossible, really? And then list everything there that would justify why it's impossible. Then start picking every last one of those apart. Every justification you put for why it's impossible, well, question that too. It's impossible because, number one, well, why? Why is that impossible? So start picking those apart. Go for the impossible if you want to transform and ignite and disrupt your marketplaces. Don't go for the possible because that's what everybody else is doing. Go for the impossible, pick it apart, and then say, okay, if that were possible, how would I make that doable? And then take it from there. So that's my podcast for this week, and it was a little bit on the local side, but I'll tell you what, you name me a town that is as cool as Winona, Minnesota in terms of disrupting, transforming, and igniting marketplaces. I just don't think you can. And use us as a lesson for what you might do in the future. And remember, start with the impossible. Well, that pretty much wraps up another episode of Transform, Ignite, and Disrupt. Now, in upcoming episodes, I'm going to challenge you to do the weirdest thing you've ever done and think about your business in the weirdest way you ever have. And that's in an upcoming episode. So stay tuned for that and hope you all have a great week.
You've been listening to Transform, Ignite, Disrupt. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit StephenLBlue.com.